What is one item you did not realize was expensive until you became an adult? Does Christmas in general count? The best cheat to Christmas gifts is to make DIY gifts or bake food. They are sentimental as you have put more effort in and are cheap to make as well. Edit. I'm baking everyone on my gift list salted pretzels, burnt butter cookies and chocolate truffles. I've been COVID unemployed since the start of all of this and my husband just got let go. We told our friends and families that they're only getting cookies and cakes this year, which they were all very excited about. I should have been doing this every year. My rule of thumb is this: if I can't find a gift within the $20 to $40 price range, it is time to get crafty. I prefer others do the same, otherwise gift cards and some quality time together. Taking the whole family out to dinner. Man, that crap adds up. Right? I am married but without kids and occasionally we dine with my parents and siblings. My siblings and I would just split the cost because man we feel the burn in the pockets. My dad and mom used to take us out on Fridays, myself and my spouse and 2 kids, both my brothers and both their spouses. Every Friday. Didn't take long to quit that crap, or for us to begin to cycle in paying for dinner, when we realized every Friday cost my parents a few $100. In my country it's kind of a custom for the hosts and the guests to fight over the bill. As a kid I believed they legit wanted to pay for the whole table, but now as an adult I wonder how much of the fighting was done with the hope of losing out. When my uncle and aunt would come visit us when we were growing up, my uncle and my dad had a running gag about who could out-fumble the other when going to pay. The joke being that each was pretending to go for his wallet but bumbling it in their hands hoping the other would get their card out first. I would be full on infomercialing it. Pull out the wallet with such force it flies in the air and every catch just juggles it with increasing force until it lands in the soup of the table next to you. Reminds me of this great bit. YouTube link. Growing up in an immigrant Asian household, we didn't go out to eat much, and when we did, we would never order drinks, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. It was either water or tea. It was always free in Chinese restaurants, not so much now. Without drinks it's pretty expensive. With drinks you can easily double your bill. Once my brothers and I started making money and we started paying for meals, we began to order drinks, but we're pretty good at splitting or taking turns. My Asian parents made it sound like they had to take out a second mortgage to buy pizza. After a certain point, I stopped asking. Now that I'm older, I'm questioning why they would give me a lecture during car ride home for that one time they bought me pizza. It was like $20. Biggest financial mistake my wife have made was teaching our kids to enjoy sushi. Man, that crap really adds up. Edit. Please stop telling me to learn to make it myself, or have them learn to make it, or make it as a family, or go to another family that knows how to make it, or open our own sushi restaurant and get paid to make it, or try revolving sushi, or try all-you-can-eat sushi, or try Chinese buffets instead, or try gas station sushi, or don't eat sushi at all because it's gross. Thank you. You also learn the importance of happy hours and value menus. Curtains. Fabrics in general cost a effing fortune. No wonder nobody sews anymore. My mom makes quilts. By the time she buys the fabric, sews it all together and has someone quilt it on the big quilting matching, she's put probably $300 between time and money into it. And people get crabby because handmade quilts cost so much. Well damn, look at how much goes into one. Yes, and don't even get me started on how people undervalue crochet/knitted blankets. I crochet these huge mandala style blankets, lots of texture, color, like a giant doily. They are works of art. People are always telling me I should sell them on Etsy. My reply is, oh, if you want to buy one I'd have to charge $600 each. Here is my PayPal. Materials, even for cheap quality yarn, runs from $100 to $200. Then there is crochet hooks, which for quality ones that won't give you carpal tunnel run around $10 to $70 per hook. Then it takes roughly 6 weeks to make one that is full/queen size. Thank you. I made my mom a pretty simple but large blanket. It was easily $200 in yarn and took hundreds of hours. Hundreds. Even if I wanted to pay myself minimum wage, no one would buy that blanket from me at that price. Don't get me wrong, it's a nice freaking blanket. But people don't understand what it really takes to make one. I make amigurumi for people and I refuse to take money unless it's for materials because it requires something unusually expensive. I've had people offer to pay, or suggest I sell what I make and I just don't want to. I finish one in a week and they think, oh, you make them so quickly. Not really. It's COVID and I probably put 3 hours a night into that thing for 7 days. That is a part-time job. And you think I could sell it for a whopping $50, if that? Yeah. Not impressive. I'd rather keep it as my hobby and gift to people so I can see the look of happiness on their face and feel good. $50 from a stranger through Etsy would be far from satisfying. I remember seeing crochet toys on Etsy for like $120 plus, and going WTFY. Since then I've learned crochet and yeah. I make what I want for who I want because trying to make money that way would be a bit maddening. Right? I made a crochet blanket and brought it to work because it's cold there. I work full-time and this blanket took me almost a year. I had 2 coworkers ask me to make them one. No. It would cost a few hundred, and I don't have the time. They act like it took maybe a week, rolling eyes face. I did a post elsewhere in the thread where I calculated out what it would take to recoup costs alone on a blanket I'm currently crocheting, and this is a simple C2C double bed blanket in a variegated yarn, so I don't even have to weave in ends or anything. Somewhere around 300 pounds to 420 allowing for time and materials, with the discrepancy being because my first estimate was based on the sale price I got my yarn at and only paying myself minimum wage, versus what the actual retail cost of the yarn is in my current hourly wage. My mother used to sew all kinds of things, but now it's not worth it because fabric is so expensive and it is just cheaper to buy mass-produced crap rather than spending that same dollar or more on materials and then taking the time to make your own crap. Absolutely. You don't want to know the true cost of a handmade quilt. There could be hundreds of dollars in fabric costs depending on the front design and quality of fabric. And who wants to cheap out on something that you're hoping will become an heirloom? You want it to hold up to washing, etc., plus batting in the middle, yards and yards of fabric for the back, the binding fabric for joining the edges. Thread isn't cheap either given how much is needed for a complicated pattern or quilting. Once you have all 3 layers joined together, you need to quilt the 3 layers together. Many people pay for their quilts to be quilted by someone with a long-arm sewing machine instead of trying to squish it through the small throat of a domestic sewing machine. It's much easier to do fancy patterns on a bigger sewing machine. You could be well over $100 for a long armor to do a pretty simple design on a throw-sized quilt. This doesn't even include labor costs. A good quilt will likely have dozens and potentially hundreds of hours worth of work. The people who quilt often have hundreds or thousands of hours experience. They have purchased expensive equipment to make the quilt. Sewing machines, cutting mats and rulers, organizational systems to keep things sorted, pins, sprays, patterns, the list goes on. This is not someone who should be paid minimum wage, or less. If you think of a carpenter who spends similar amounts on wood, tools, hours of experience, what would you expect to pay in labor per hour for them to build you new cabinets? I'll get off my soapbox now. TLDR, a good quilt is ridiculously expensive. This is so right. My mom is a master quilter. I always used to say, why don't you try to sell your quilts or projects? And she would always say nobody would buy them for what I put into them, and that is so true. So instead she quilts because she loves it and prefers to trade with people or give things away. She runs a successful Facebook quilting group filled with a bunch of people that just share their love of quilting with each other between swaps or auctions. I'm so fortunate that she has made me a few quilts through the years. Yeah, if you break into a fancy house, steal the curtains, and you got like 5-12K, easily steal their front door too if you have the time. Those things also cost an absurd amount of money. Is there much of a market for fencing curtains and doors? Owning a car. I knew buying one was expensive, even second-hand, but just owning one? Car insurance, road taxes, gasoline, yearly maintenance. Even it just sitting in the parking lot during the pandemic, it's costing me quite a bit. The cost of gas was something I really didn't understand as a kid, because I never put together that the price on the signs was per gallon and you needed multiple gallons. I always heard my parents complain about the cost and I thought they were being overly whiny about it since the sign said gas was only a few bucks. I remember my parents complaining when the price of gas went over $1. I thought they were crazy, Even to a child, $1 isn't much money. When I started driving, gas had just tipped over $3 and I suddenly understood their pain. Cries in Canadian. Yup, $1.30 per liter adds up insanely fast. I used to own a car that I'd only use to drive to the supermarket once a week. With insurance, depreciation and maintenance all considered, I calculated that it would have been cheaper to hire a limousine to take me there and back each week. Sold the car, and used home delivery rather than a limo service in future. People think that I'm all bourgeoisie because I take Uber everywhere, but it's cheaper than owning a car, and even if I take one every day across town or whatever, it might cost about the same, but still without the extra costs of parking and repairs, and also headspace for worry and the time and effort of maintenance and gas and so on. That headspace is priceless. Edit, and as someone pointed out, I don't worry about getting lost or running out of gas or dealing with other drivers. I read or nap in the back seat. I don't show up anywhere already unhappy. Yep, and not to mention that being able to chill in the back seat is worth the price over having to pay attention driving, stressing out with traffic, etc. This is why I wish public transportation was more accessible. As much as I like driving, living in a city makes it less enjoyable. The one thing going for driving is that, no matter how bad traffic is, your car is your own personal space. You control the temperature, the sounds, and the smells. You can talk to yourself or sing along with the radio and not bother anybody. I commuted on subways and buses for 20 years. It was fine, and got better after the advent of smartphones and tablets, and economically it made a lot of sense. But there is a special kind of misery to being packed in nuts to butts on a bus that is stuck in rush hour traffic. Gravestones. Most of my family members were cremated, those who died, except for my grandma. It's a nice memorial that she chose completely, and it's pretty basic. $30,000 Canadian dollars roughly. Blows my effing mind. Cremate the crap out of me. Edit, gravestones, plus, coffin, plus, the grave itself was $30,000. Most of my family were cremated, those who died. Thanks for the clarification. Reminds me of the courtroom transcript. Defense attorney, please tell us, Dr. Such and Such, how many autopsies have you performed on dead people? Coroner, all of my autopsies have been on dead people. There was a great collection of such conversations that I saw this one in a while back. It was titled something like Stupidest Questions on Public Record or something. Attorney, and you're sure the person was dead? Coroner, yes. Attorney, did you check for a pulse? Were they breathing? Coroner, no. Attorney, then how can you be sure they were dead? Coroner, because his brain was sitting in a jar on my desk. Attorney, doctor, before you performed the autopsy, did you check for a pulse? Witness, no. Attorney, did you check for blood pressure? Witness, no. Attorney, did you check for breathing? Witness, no. Attorney, so, then it is possible that the patient was alive when you began the autopsy? Witness, no. Attorney, how can you be so sure, doctor? Witness, because his brain was sitting on my desk in a jar. Attorney, I see, but could the patient have still been alive, nevertheless? Witness, yes, it is possible that he could have been alive and practicing law. Yup, I remember one too. Attorney, how old is your son? Dad, 35 or 37, I don't remember. Attorney, how long has he lived with you? Dad, 45 years. I bought 3 family headstones in the last 10 years, and they ranged from $1 to $4K, installed and engraved. Are you speaking about her entire funeral? What? I planned a funeral for my mom a few years back and the stone wasn't even 1/10 that. Are you sure that didn't include a fancy casket, funeral home services, and a send-off by the solid gold dancers? Raspberries. Nothing like having a stern talk with yourself in the grocery store. Raspberries or a chicken you can turn into a week's meals. Pineapple or the big box of store-brand baking mix. The first time I had that taking to with myself, I said shut the F up out loud and walked away. Wife bought 10 packs this week. Web link. Tires. I always imagined they were like $50 a piece and the installation was part of the sales price. First time I saw a $700 bill for 4 new tires, I about cried. A lot of that is inflation. Edit. Wow. Thank you everyone, but please stop giving me awards. I'm a dad. I made a dad joke. It's what I do. Stop spending your hard-earned coins on my puns, you're only encouraging me. Top tier dad joke right there. My husband and I own an auto repair shop, and one of our services is we sell tires. We make a 10% profit on tires. I know it's not the service station's fault that prices are so high. And honestly, they last quite a long time. The price makes sense. I just thought they would be cheaper before I had ever had to sit down and think about it. Bigger tires also cost more, and there has been a trend towards bigger tires. Hatchbacks used to have 13 or 14-inch rims. Even my first truck only had 15-inch rims. Now some friends are spending more on tires and rims than I spent on my car. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.